Hello, how are you? I'm Liz, your average and normal and completely sane DGMA major, and today I wanted to ask the students of Alfred State what they think about AI. Welcome to DGMAzing. DGMA, it's a pilot episode, please.
Whoa.
Hello.
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 You have a star in your head.
I do have a star on my head. I have another star, I think, on my jaw.
Yeah.
Did it fall off? No, it's still there.
Okay.
Awesome.
Oh, how are you?
I'm me.
And what does that mean to you?
Depends on the day.
Hi.
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 How are you?
Stuffy.
Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm pretty good.
How are things?
Pretty good.
What is your opinion on AI?
Pretty bad.
So, what do you think of AI art?
I don't like it. I probably have the most positive view on it of the people so far.
Kill it with fire.
Hi. Hi. So you're the president of the animation.
Sure am.
Yeah.
I also founded it. Self-plug.
You founded it?
I did, yeah.
That's so cool.
Thanks.
That is so cool.
Hard work,
Yeah.
unlike AI.
Whoa!
I think that AI is, and is this a safe for work podcast?
You can swear, but only like once, and then none of you can swear after
I
that.
think it's most appropriate to say it right here out the gate. AI is utter dog.
How so?
Well, I guess if we cut to the chase, I don't think it's real art. I think it's terrible for the environment, and I think it actively plagiarizes the handmade artwork of real artists.
Because I don't think it's, you might hear this a lot today.
Yeah.
I don't think it's real art.
Why don't you think it's real art?
Because, and I think I have a bit of a unique perspective on this one, I feel like art in my brain is defined, I'm going back to normal. I think art in my brain is kind of defined as like a culmination of people's experiences. And AI does not have original experiences.
I wouldn't call it art. I don't think it has a place in the professional world. But as like a casual thing, if you're not making money off of it, I can see that it can be okay.
What are your thoughts on AI?
AI as a tool or like a media to be consumed? So it's
Both.
okay, as a tool, I think it's fascinating. Full disclosure, I don't know anything about tech. I am garbo at it. I tried taking coding classes, bad at it. So this is entirely coming from someone who is seeing from the outside and not from the inside. So as a tool, it's fascinating. I think it's super convenient, and I like that. I like that it's accessible, and like we don't have to worry about only really rich people having access to such a tool. Because if that was the case, I think the disparity in like classes would only get higher, and that sucks. Sometimes though, I think the convenience is a detriment because frankly speaking, I think a lot of people nowadays are super lazy and they want things instantly, and AI is really, really good at that, for better or for worse.
People go like, well, back then, because I was actually talking to my Mimi about it the other night, talking about an assignment I had to do that included. She's like, well, people got mad at stealing music. I'm like, well, they figured that out. I'm like, hey, can I take your music? No, I have to pay you. Okay, I won't pay it. With AI, there's nothing you can do, or at least that I haven't seen.
AI art in particular is like, it is like anti-art in a sort of way. You'll hear a lot of people throw around the idea of like anti-intellectualism nowadays. I mean, like even like going in like like the news climate right now. Not even going into like anything, you know, specific on the news, but just like the overall way that news and media makes its way to us is so like distorting at this point, and like getting any semblance of truth out of that is basically impossible. I feel like AI art is kind of similar in that way, because there is something that resembles you know, visual media. It's something that resembles feeling that has absolutely none.
Why specifically do you think it's plagiarism?
Well, the reason that AI art exists is because it references algorithmic coding of what it thinks you're trying to generate when you put something into a generator, when you put a prompt in there. So when it spits something out back at you that is supposed to be art, it must reference what it knows in its coding as art. For it to be able to do that, it must reference real existing artwork that other people have taken, either what other people have drawn or photographs or any other form of artistic media. And because it is melding so many different parts together, it is very, very difficult to tell who made each part. Thus, they get away with a lot of the plagiarism because you can't pin it down to one or two things that they copied from. It's God knows how many, you know.
It can't exactly. It's not adding anything new to the pot this time around. You know, even if you are using your own art to train an AI, it's still kind of just reusing the experience you put in there already.
What do you think about people? I think the guy's name is Andy Warhol, I'm pretty sure, who like recreates the same can over and over. Do you think that stuff's art then? I know it's a very different.
Yes, because I think each time he comes at it, he's a different person. You know,
Really?
I'm not the same person I am before you dragged that chair onto screen, because now I have that new experience in my brain.
Wasn't it a wonderful experience?
It was a wonderful
It was a
experience.
wonderful.
Frankly, I never predicted that I'd be here today.
That is so good. I think that one of the issues I have, like, you know, the idea that like when you make things too simple, you lose control. And I think AI is the perfect example of that. Like with Blender or Maya, for example, plug for the next episode. They are complicated, weird, often strange, difficult programs to learn. But when you do, you can do so much with them. It doesn't take a lot to learn how to do AI, and once you do, there's not much control that you have with the output.
We're just gonna take your art, put it in our machine, and there's nothing you can do about it.
What do you think AI tastes like? What do you think it tastes like?
Worse than prison food.
So you're saying like school lunch?
Yeah, yeah.
Because I've used it like once or twice.
Yeah.
Like I've used it a few times, mainly
Yeah.
just to with it and try to break it.
I started using it a couple times so I could like figure out what exactly it had trouble doing, because when it was at first starting, it was like, okay, it can't do hands, but what else can't it do?
That's true.
So like you're trying to like figure out what makes it definitely AI and not just somebody who didn't know how to draw.
Yeah, what makes it so upsetting? What makes it not great? Like, I love putting snail in anything. It makes it so much worse. Like, you can put horse snail, and now the horse has a shell and random, like, stalk eyes coming out of its hoof. It's disgusting. Do you think AI art even is art? Would you quantify it as art?
Not at all.
Why so? Because there's good art and bad art, but I think, like, when people say art, right, they say, like, just because art is... Like something isn't art if it's bad, right? Do you still think, like, with that type of framework, do you think it could be considered art? Like, because
I think art absolutely is. I think art's still art, whether it's bad or not.
Yeah.
I mean, like, you know, advertising is art, propaganda is art, architecture is art. In saying this, I sound like the kind of, you know, like intellectual that the intellectual crowd and the anti-art crowd, and thus usually the pro-AI crowd is kind of rallying against. In saying all these things about what art is and isn't, you know, I feel like I'm kind of inviting that. But to shorthand it as much as I can, art is the admixture of intent and experience. Whether it's good or whether it's bad, from the level of like technical execution, from the level of messaging, it is nonetheless art.
What do you think of social media companies generally that data scrape and plagiarize? Like, there was this whole controversy on Tumblr, for instance, when they had like you had to actively check a box to not get your data scraped.
That was also a thing on Instagram as
Mhm.
well, with like Meta
Yeah.
and everything like that.
Yeah, I know that DeviantArt specifically. I think, like, do you think?
Mm.
Because DeviantArt's policy is specifically we only data scrape if you check a box. You actively have to check a box.
It's an opt-in.
Yeah, it's an opt-in, not an opt-out. Do you think that is ethical? Do you think that is fine?
I almost want to say yes if it were for the, if we assume that every single person knows what they're signing up for,
That's fair.
then we can say that it is ethical.
Mhm.
If you
If you're not using it to make money,
Mhm.
feel free to use it. It's your life.
Mhm.
If you don't want to use it, you don't have to use it. If you don't like people using it, you don't have to agree with the people who use it.
If there was somebody specifically who built an AI model from the ground art and then put their art in the model, do you think that would be considered art?
if it was only their art,
Yeah, or maybe like a team of people. Let's
or
say.
yeah, like a team of people who are
Yeah.
melding stuff, and they are the
Yeah.
only people who are contributing
Yeah,
to this
yeah, yeah.
algorithm,
And they want to.
and they're like actively,
Yeah,
actively.
they like
consent
it. They're
they
chill
enjoy
with
it.
it.
They think it's
Yeah.
great. Ultimately, then I think the issue is not so much the plagiarism, but it becomes the sort of secondary issue that we tend to talk about when we are discussing AI art, which is the element that it is very bad for the environment. So in that
That's fair.
regard, I would say, if this was a harmless thing that you were doing with just you and your friends and you're making generative AI and you're only referencing your own stuff,
And they're
and we
okay.
hadn't,
And they're
yes.
rendering based off of their computers and their technology. So they're not relying on outsourcing. They're relying on their bit at home. We're creating the most ethical.
If we homebrewed the most ethical version of AI art,
Yeah.
then I suppose that would be ethical.
Okay.
But it ultimately boils down to why would you want to do that?
That's
right.
fair. Yeah.
If you are already an artist,
Mhm.
um,
They just
you-
want to see what happens, maybe.
see, yeah, I mean, if they're just screwing around, like,
Or
okay,
there are like.
and let's assume that this is having no effect on the environment.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure it
right?
has like some effect. Like
on
it's the
their own
environment.
computers.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. Let's say that because
They can grill like a hot dog on it for hot dog day.
sure. Yeah, it is one of those things where it's like if it didn't have any, because we look at AI art and if you look into the environmental effects that generative AI has on the environment, it wastes a ton of water
Yeah.
to extinguish the overheating issues that happens with these
Mhm.
plants. So if we were to, let's say, homebrew this ethical means, like this most ethical means of AI art,
Mhm.
and cut out those plants somehow and say, okay, they're not wasting this water and blah blah blah, then I suppose that would be ethical. But then you run into the problem of you've already created everything that you could possibly see. You're only going to see hybrids of what you made.
Mhm.
And I think the whole point, the whole drive of people creating generative AI art is to get new things,
Mhm.
right? So it would be a moot point if you were only putting your own stuff in.
Yeah.